people just don't like Kamala Harris. Like, she's one of the least popular vice presidents, I believe, in like recent history. I don't know if it's like an Asian exclusive thing. I just think a lot of people
Why don't you think they like her?
She comes off as obnoxious and pretentious, and they don't like her.
I mean, like, she was taken down by Tulsi Gabbard, another South Asian, you know? Like, when Tulsi Gabbard shut down Kamala Harris at the Democratic debates, it was the best
Politics.
Asian Americans, and I'm gonna root for, like, what I promote on this channel is conservative. When you look into a lot of Asian families, it's a lot rooted in family and duty and honor and tradition and all that stuff, and it's very conservative, you know. Not to say that there isn't room for quote-unquote liberal stuff or whatever, but for the most part, I think if we want to still embrace our tradition, you're gonna need to conserve that, right? I like this quote. I don't know where it's come from. Like, tradition is not worshiping the ashes, it is preserving the fire, you know? And it is... Hey yo, what's up guys? So I'm coming to you another video. We are talking about Vice News. They're doing a panel on Asian Americans, talking about a bunch of topics. I see Vince Dao on it. We're gonna get into it, have some fun, talk about it. So with that said, shall we begin?
So tall cause I'm hauling. I was laying up getting racks in the morning. I was broke, now I'm rich, these niggas salty. All this is on my back.
But first, of course, if you're new to my channel, what is up? My name is Mitch, Maverick Mitch. Hey Mitch, all the Mitches, the call sign's on, and pretty much I like talking about what I talk about. So, current events, reviews, pop culture, social political commentary, be sure to check out all those videos as you're finishing this video. And of course, please like, share, and subscribe as it feeds the algorithm. So with that said, let's get into it. Alright, so real quick, also kind of like disclaimers and everything. So this thing was out a couple of weeks ago. I just caught it. Vice News also did a panel with Sydney Watson and Pearl. Pearl was awesome on this, talking about feminism, talking about like, what's stopping you as a woman? You know, I love that.
When we have no barriers today, so we can pick what we want to pick.
Who doesn't have barriers? Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
we have
stopping
no
you?
barriers.
You can do whatever you want.
I can or you can?
What's stopping you?
And so, for this video, it's like 40 minutes long. I'm not gonna get into all of it. Probably do like the first 5-10 minutes of it, and then go talk about, I found an area where they're talking about politics. So politics is bread and butter, and so we're gonna talk about that, right? And so, I saw the Fung brothers do their own video reaction to this. I didn't want to listen to all of it, but you know, when it comes down to it, a few things, right? I agree with their first initial statements is that they're just going to get a bunch of Asians, right, and talk about controversial things, right? And I agree with that. And so one thing with this, it's so like Asian American and Pacific Islander, and you know, if that's included into this as well, there's just so many, right? And so there's so many perspectives and everything. It's hard to narrow it down. Already when I was skimming through this, everyone's kind of like talking over each other, which goes into the next thing, which is actually last year, September of last year, 2021. Well, 2 years now, I guess, but 2 years ago, Vice News actually approached me, right, and saying like, hey, do you want to do this as a panel? And so I heard nothing of this. And so here they have a panel. Not to say I'm salty, but I'm glad they got Vince Dao on this. And so if anyone was able to hold their own, that's it. Like, I don't know if I could, like, watching the few seconds, minutes of this, I don't think I could have done any better, right? And I think that could have been just another thing real quick, like, you know, when you're getting into this, I saw Sydney Watson doing her video talking about her experience on the Vice panel, and I'm talking super fast because I'm excited. And it's like, you have to go into this, like, with a different temperament, right? I'm not saying you gotta be aggressive, but you gotta be prepared to be aggressive. But like in a Sydney Watson perspective, like she's just there, I'm gonna come in this very calm, collected. Everyone else is trying to attack you, and so you know, and again, I'm seeing like Vince Dao holding it its own, and it sucks. I wish I could have been there to back him up, because like pretty much I'm seeing all these like scenes real quick, like everyone is like ganging up on him, and so kind of unfair, but you know, it's Vice News. And so which brings me into I should start doing my own Vice News panel type of thing. And so because these conversations are good, but it's always skewed, obviously it's Vice News, and that was something, a worry for me when they did approach me, like this is a great opportunity, but they'll definitely, it's left wing, and all that stuff, and so they'll probably twist out my words. And Sydney Watson even said so. Like they film like whatever 4 hours of content and only do like 1 hour, right, and cuts all of this stuff out. So something to keep in mind in the future, right? And so with that said, let's get into this. I said a whole lot already prefacing this. Let's watch like the first 10 minutes, like I said, or 5 minutes, and then fast forward into talking about politics. So yeah.
Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the entire Democrat basically caucus in Congress literally bent the knee to George Floyd and to Black Lives Matter. Like, they quite literally did that.
And that was a bad thing?
I think it was a stupid thing.
Okay, already hitting it off. I obviously like they threw in the most like highlight point painting thing that would look bad on Vince Dao. And again, I don't really recognize anyone on this panel except Vince Dao. And so yeah, really good on him and everything. And so we'll continue. And yeah, we'll continue. I love the B-roll.
Are they filming us for like B-roll?
Alright, here we go. You guys feeling ready?
It's happening.
Hi, and welcome to our conversation about what it means to be Asian American. I'm Krishna. My parents came here from India. I was born here. So I identify as South Asian American or Asian American. And I just wanted to call out that, you know, we're talking about the largest continent on the planet with multiple countries, ethnicities, sub-ethnicities within it. So we did our best to try to get a diverse mix of opinions and backgrounds on this panel, but you can't get everyone's opinion. So as we start, I want to get a quick poll. How many of you guys think the term Asian American is useful? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got a couple 50-50s. What about if we were to add Asian?
Okay, so pause real quick. So again, getting straight into it. Like I said, I don't know anyone on this panel except Vince Dao. You know, like he said, there's a lot of like Asian American, like there's a lot of Asians in itself. So you can't even get a sample, you know, like, and so obviously they try to do their best, and so that's one of the challenges even to do these things anyway. You're gonna get like 8 people, 4 people who are maybe conservative, 4 people who are not, and so it's just a rough time altogether. And so let's listen real quick. They're talking about Asian Americans if it's helpful.
American Pacific Islander. I guess I'm curious to hear why, and maybe the way we can do that is going around the room and talking about who we are, where we came from, and what that term means to us, and what you think it might mean to the rest of the world. So.
I'm Yiling, and I would identify myself as an Asian American. I feel really strongly about being an immigrant. I'm first gen, or I say first and a half gen, because I was born in China, and then we immigrated to New York and then to San Francisco. And I think that like the term Asian American, it's complicated because it applies to so many different identities, ethnicities, and cultures. It's a helpful term when, you know, you don't really know what else to you kind of just like lump everybody into like one term, and I don't think there's any issue with it being Asian American and Pacific Islander either, because that's just more inclusive in my opinion.
So there's a sense of community amongst people from different cultures.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because like you can't really put it into words. It's applicable to such a wide range of things, and like, you know, we're not a monolith.
It's complex.
Yes.
So I agree with there. I too don't have a problem with Asian American, Asian Pacific Island, all that good stuff, right? Also, I guess I have a different perspective because, you know, I did all Asian American studies. I got a degree in it and all that good stuff. And so, you know, already, like, the only problem with that is when you talk about Asian Americans, when you talk about Asia in itself as a continent, you're talking from the Levant to the Pacific Ocean. Like technically, when you come down to it, like people from Israel are technically Asian. Like they're part of the Asian continent, right? And so when you look at like Wikipedia, like you're gonna still see people from Jordan, Afghanistan, you know, like, well, that's more middle, but I mean towards the Levant, the Mediterranean, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And so, and even on the Pacific Ocean, you got all the way from Japan, all the way to Southeast Asia, into Malaysia, and all that stuff, of course, the Philippines. And then you're gonna, on top of that, like when you use Pacific Island, then you're gonna include Polynesia, the Tonga, Fiji, Hawaiian, Micronesian, Maori, like it's just a lot, right?
Yep.
I was born in Manila, Philippines.
Interesting. And what does that heritage mean to you?
I cringe because this is what I could have been, right? This could have been the Filipino voice, but like you got this guy.
You know,
so.
I'm a little conflicted because sometimes I just want to be American. I don't want to specify the fact that I'm Asian, but at the same time, it's like someone looks at you, they're going to say that you're Asian, so you say you're Asian American. I don't like the idea of separating the Pacific Islander just because for so long I was told I wasn't Asian, that I was a Pacific Islander. I just think it's all encompassing, we are Asian.
Micah.
I feel very prideful about the Asian Pacific Islander. I live in San Diego now, but I'm originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, and my dad's born and raised from Kona. I am so close with my family. Just growing up, it's hard to explain, but being from Hawaii, like the aloha spirit is real. Being around your family, having that common courtesy for community is just something that I'm really proud of.
And you feel like, as it relates to Asian American and Pacific Islander, these are two things that kind of go together in some ways?
Yeah, they do. They do.
How?
So the thing about Hawaii...
But, okay, he's going to go into it. When it comes, if you grow up in Hawaii, yes, you're going to be very exposed to a lot of other Asians and Pacific Islanders. So Hawaii is very unique in that aspect, but like if you're Samoan, if you were someone else, I don't think you would have that same experience. So continue.
Is that it's a really huge collection of different types of ethnicities, and there's a lot of Asian influence in Hawaii as well. A lot of different people who are there are from Korea, China, Japan, and so I just consider them family as well.
Well, good to meet you. Tell me about yourself, Vince.
Genetically, I'm a quarter Italian, 75% Vietnamese, but I am really with Teddy Roosevelt on this one. I don't believe in the hyphenated American thing. I identify as American. I consider myself an American. Sure, genetically, I'm mostly Asian. I don't go around thinking I'm an Asian American because I think that, especially considering the fact that America today is increasingly a more and more diverse country, which is what it is, the only way that's going to hold together is if people can, to some extent, all identify as being part of the same nation, part of the same creed to an extent. I mean, that's just the way I would view it.
Vish, you're up.
Alright, so I'll probably end it on this section here with Vince Dao and his comments. So I understand that perspective. I don't really subscribe to it. Like, I know other people, other Asian, especially conservatives, well, not all, like a lot of Asian conservatives, but like the one in particular comes to mind is Michelle Malkin. She's a Gen X contributor and conservative contributor, and you know, she is someone who says, like, even though she's Filipina, like, she's like, I'm American, you know. As for myself, you know, I always like to embrace the I'm fully a Filipino, I'm fully American. I don't distinguish the two, you know. I think especially when I call my core values God, family, country, it's not me being Filipino that's God, family, country. It's not me being American that's God, family, country. It's all together, you know, and I think it's all one. I think there's also a conversation, especially when it comes to the Filipinos and for the Philippines, they just see like Filipino Americans, Filipino in the diaspora as whatever country they're part of. So if you're born in Canada, you're Canadian. If you're born in America, you're American of Filipino descent or whatever, right? And so I suppose there's a conversation there and all that stuff. But, you know, for me, I think it's healthy that, you know, you can still be Asian American, you can still be Filipino while still being American. If you adhere a meaning, but yet like being in the military. So I'll go into that portion. So you have to adhere to the laws and the customs of what is America, and I saw a little bit of that because they're like, so what is American? I saw all that too. But when it comes to diversity in the military, right, and the diversity only works in the military is when we have one mission, when we have one core value, you know, when we're actually like we will make fun of each other, but when we know when mission comes down to it, like the only thing that kind of like matters in the room is how well you can do your job and maybe your rank. And so it like when you have an actual mission, I think that is critical. So as Americans, it should not matter where we come from as long as we are uplifting what is America and the great nation of America. And America is great. I'll just leave that there. And then let's go into talking about politics.
To the main event, because a lot of what's behind the disagreements that we're having today seems to be related to politics. How many of you here would say that you're progressive or liberal? Raise your hands. And how many would say conservative or not progressive and liberal? Undecided? Okay. Are Asians invisible in American politics? Are they visible? Do Asian Americans have political power? Let's take visibility.
Not visible enough. But that is a consequence of the mentality towards politics for a lot of Asians. You don't participate in the system, nobody's gonna care what you have to say, period. Which is why I've made it a point to participate in the system. You know, I don't go around saying, well, I'm Asian, that's why I deserve to be here. But just me being in the room is a step above what's kind of the sort of awareness, the political awareness of specifically the Indian community, in my opinion. You know, that's been my experience. So I don't think that they're visible enough. And the reason they're not visible is because they don't participate and do the work behind it. Is
That engagement.
I agree with that. That's something that I always talk to a lot of, even in the Filipino community here in Las Vegas, even the conservatives, like why aren't there, and this also goes on the other side, right? And so I have heard other people, the left-leaning Filipinos even mention like, hey, there's not a lot, like why aren't Filipinos engaged, you know? And I agree with them. Like, it's like a portion of it, like, for the left, a lot of the things that drive the left is like fear and social justice, and so conservatives in general don't protest, you know, they don't do these things unless they feel threatened. So like all the parents feeling threatened with indoctrination in schools with leftist ideology, Marxist ideology, and so now they're getting up in all of this, right? And so it, like, I agree with that in a sense where like just isolating it to Filipinos, I see, like, I think of all the Asian groups, maybe the Indian group too, South Asians, and then the Filipinos are probably the most vocal, and that's like maybe anecdotal, but I think because Filipinos are very, my assessment is that because Filipinos are very expressive, are very much in the entertainment, and very much in the front of a lot of things. They don't mind being involved, right? And so there's this idea in which a lot of the Asian American philosophies and tendencies tend to just not rock the boat, right? And they had this conversation earlier about mono minority, and so that kind of plays into it a little bit. Not that I agree with mono minority, it's just that there's some truth in that we're Asian Americans, and it kind of goes to philosophies that where you kind of just submit to authority type of thing. And so continue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that in terms of, I think it's more than that, but I do agree as lack of engagement or, you know, claiming to be apolitical. I think when Kamala became vice president, there wasn't really that much support that I saw from the Asian community. And she's our first Asian American woman to be elected in such a high position. So where is this support?
Obviously, he does not care. Agreed. But at the same time, that's coming from your side, right? The left side is the one who champions like, oh, we are the first Asian blah 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 and this and that, and that. They're not the one that's doing it. I saw a little bit. I saw some of those posters as far as in ads or whatever, and graphic designs and ads, whatever, talking about like Kamala Harris, first South Asian vice president, all that stuff, woman, and all that good stuff. But to her credit, again, I don't see it enough, you know, even coming from the left. So yeah.
Just because she may not look a specific way.
So what you're saying is that the broader Asian American community, which might include East Asians and otherwise, didn't speak up enough.
I mean, just also real quick, I'll probably skip over this, but like, you could say the same thing about like Tiger Woods. Like, as much as people say like, oh, he's the first black golfer, whatever, making Masters, whatever, and like, well, he's the first Asian person to do it as well. So, but because he's darker phenotype, they just and he is black, like they just go with the black side, you know, and so.
For having a South Asian person like Kamala Harris of mixed race become vice president of the United States. So divisions within itself.
Yes. Like, I did not see very many East Asians come out and be like, you know, Asian American representation.
I'll say, like, if it was a Filipino who made president, we, like, both sides of the aisle will probably be screaming and shouting. And so, like both sides, Filipinos, like, is one aspect of Filipinos, they would attach, like, they don't care your politics per se, maybe. If you are someone of influence, they will attach yourself to you. So, yeah.
But I saw plenty of black people come out and be like, black representation. You know, so there is definitely a lot of divisiveness within our own communities that we need to understand and recognize. Being Asian is not just being East Asian.
Maybe Asians didn't feel represented by Kamala Harris. Maybe people just don't like Kamala Harris. Like, she's one of the least popular vice presidents, I believe, in like recent history. I don't know if it's like an Asian exclusive thing. I just think a lot of people
Why don't you think they like her?
She comes off as obnoxious and pretentious, and they don't like her.
I mean, like, she was taken down by Tulsi Gabbard, another South Asian, you know? Like, when Tulsi Gabbard shut down Kamala Harris at the Democratic debates, it was the best.
Politics.
Can I piggyback off that?
I think. Oh man, if I was on this panel, I would have said that.
Kamala Harris does not get the love from the Asian community because she picks and chooses when she wants to be whatever her identity is.
Thank you.
When she's on TV, on camera, you know, I'm a black woman, blah, 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 blah. But she only claims her Indian and Asian background when she's in the fundraisers with the rich Indians. She is doing it to herself. She's dividing her identity by setting up, you know, code switching. I know AOC likes to use the word code switching. Code switching to the black community when she's on camera, and then code switching to the Asian community when she's raising money. Don't be surprised if, you know, you only come around when you're asking for a check. And then we're not in the streets, you know, as hard as you would like us to be. But then again, you don't go on camera wearing a dot on your head and the jasmine in your hair, right? And wearing a sari. Show me a picture of Kamala in a sari, right? When was the last time? I've seen Justin Trudeau wearing Indian clothes before. You know what I mean?
True that.
So don't give me the nonsense, right? Like, it's her fault that Asians don't get behind her.
True that.
For her trying to win over people, do you think that maybe as a choice to not represent that, to be more relatable to the masses, could be the reason why she acts the way that she acts? I don't know.
Are you saying Asians are not relatable to the American public?
Yes. To some, yeah. No, to some. Being in a position where you have this generalization of how...
No. Pause. I've seen enough of Kamala to know that she placates to the black vote versus the Asian vote. You know? Like, how many times has she been on Charlemagne, right? Like, how many times has she done all of this other black stuff, quote-unquote black stuff, versus, like... And on top of that, like, if you can just read between the lines what Tulsi Gabbard was saying, and I agree, like, she was locking up people for marijuana when she go ahead and talk and jokes about doing marijuana on Charlemagne the God. Like, of course she's gonna be an unlikable person.
A standard American is supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, depending on the social climate, there is a lot of pressure on people to be a specific person. And so when you're someone in that light, trying to get support from different people, not even saying that she's right or wrong, I'm just saying that could possibly be a motive.
She did it to herself. If you just called yourself American, you wouldn't be in this mess.
I think,
but you switch the identity based on the need, and that is the problem.
I think Kamala exists
politically expedient.
You kind of saw what Biden shows her. She exists to basically appeal to like the woke diversity mob. Like, that's the truth. Biden said, "I'm going to pick a woman," and then he said, "I'm going to pick a woman of color," quote unquote. Ended up with Kamala Harris. And I just think that a lot of people outside of Ivy League educations find that stuff off-putting. In general America, a lot of people of all different colors are very off-put by her entire political presentation in existence because they're off-put by the
women,
diversity,
black people,
nonsense.
They're off-put by a woman in leadership. I want to chime in here.
Apparently, even like women of color and black women, even like her approval rating in general sucks.
I agree.
Why? Because
let's get off the approval rating for a second. I want to hold on one point of yours, which is she's a token. That's what I heard from you.
Sure. I think
You know, white children in this country grew up with the mentality, I can be president one day. We didn't have that. and we're just now like, oh, could it be us? What I hear a lot in your reasons for being Republican or thinking the way you do is that you don't want to be seen as a victim.
Alright, so I jumped around a lot. This is towards the tail end of this video, so fine, cool, whatever. So a little bit like comments here, right? And so not becoming president, I think that goes into two things. Well, one, like, if you're from a first generation home, you know, like, and you're not born in the US, obviously, and you learn about the system, like, you have to be born in the US to become president, of course you're not gonna have that conversation. But, like, again, it would be helpful if you were involved in politics and all that stuff. Maybe you'll yourself at least be a senator, congressmen, all that good stuff, or local government. And so, and just as much as me being in the military, me being in the military wasn't really a conversation growing up, but it's a career path I end up having, and so I didn't have that access ahead of me, right? And so it is what it is, right? And then interesting comments as far as you thinking about Republicans and not being a victim. I think, well, let's continue.
I see that, I hear that very loud and clear. It's rooted in kind of that logic that pits you against yourself. That you constantly walk around with this idea, I'm not a victim. But it doesn't just end with you. We are people that come from community. One of the things, even though we are not a monolith, a lot of our cultures can unite in the fact that we believe in community. And I know when people, when we talk as passionately as we do, it sounds like we're complaining to some people, but we have seen progress and we know it's possible. So yes, we are hopeful that our children can even have it better than us.
To your
Okay, so I will answer this in the sense where, like, well, I grew up in a very Republican home, so I mean, I have those values, and then I can also go into, like, well, maybe in college I was maybe moderate and all that stuff, but ultimately I adhere to conservative values, and so and I suppose portion of that is libertarian, but like, I mean, when it comes down to it, God, family, country, right? That's always something that I always promote on my channel, something that I adhere to my own core values, and so I always put this, I'm gonna align closely where God, family is and God, family, country is, and then that's the Republican side. And so the anti-victim narrative, I suppose that's true, right? But the thing is, we want to work within ourselves as conservatives and become the better person of ourselves versus like having the community adhere to us, like essentially it's a liberal kind of like point of view when Kennedy said, don't ask what you can do, don't ask what the government can do, what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Even though that's Kennedy saying that's like nowadays that's a conservative point of view, at least a modern conservative point of view. And so
you said, you feel like in some situations I'm pitted against myself. You're 100% right. I am my number one competition, and I'm going to win because I am the representation.
I don't doubt that you're gonna win.
The conversation about representation, I got to see somebody who looks like me in order for me to believe. No, I am that guy. I am gonna.
Not everybody has your belief.
Put myself there,
love
right?
that
Like
you have
that. Like I'm gonna be that representation. I'm that representation every day.
Guess what, guys? We were all that representation today. So thank you.
I don't know about all that.
For the passionate responses. You're gonna get a bunch of us in the room together. We're not gonna agree. That's just how it is.
Yes.
So appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, it was just that.
It was definitely.
Okay, we'll pause there. Well, actually. All right. So wrapping it up, I'll end it off with a picture of Vince Dao and everything. And so obviously, I think he did a good job. I don't think there's necessarily any winners and losers here. I think everyone had like their own perspective and everything. And so I think especially that Indian guy did a very good job too. And so I don't know if I could have done anything better. These things are very rough, and I'll still submit my name for the next one if they do reach out and everything. And so I think they did a good job. It just goes back into what I was saying earlier, in which there's just a bunch of Asian perspectives, right? And it's hard to narrow it down to any one single person and all this stuff. I will agree with that one girl that's laughing right now in the picture. Like a lot of the Asian communities in their own cultures have a value of community, and so I agree there. Honestly, so my last takeaway is that Asian Americans, and I'm gonna root for like what I promote on this channel, is conservative. When you look into a lot of Asian families, it's a lot rooted in family and duty and honor and tradition and all that stuff, and it's very conservative, not to say that there isn't room for quote unquote liberal stuff or whatever, but for the most part, I think if we want to still embrace our tradition, you're gonna need to conserve that, right? I like this quote. I don't know where it's come from. Like, tradition is not worshiping the ashes, it is preserving the fire, you know? And it rings true. And I think Asian Americans, like, you can talk about communities and social justice all you want, but if you're gonna try to enrich your own Asian culture, whatever that may be, you're gonna end up being conservative. And so I'll just leave it there. I think they did a good job. There's a lot going on here, a lot to digest. And so this was cool. So yeah, thank you for watching. You can follow me on my Instagram at HeyMitchMitch. You can follow me on Twitter, MaverickMitch, and see you next video. Thank you for watching, hanging out with me on this new year. See you next video. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you.